Welcome to Talent Titans, the podcast where we bring you entrepreneurs and leaders from the global staffing industry. I'm your host, Suki Sodi. Now let's jump right on in and welcome today's Titan. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Talent Titans. I'm super excited about today's topic. We're talking about women and allies, and my guest today has some really interesting perspectives. So let me introduce Sean. Sean, welcome to Talent Titans.
Thank you so much, Suki. Pleasure being here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
Excited
really looking forward
discuss
to
the topics.
Yeah, looking forward to your insights. Now, for those that don't know you, who are you?
So my name is Sean Simmonds, and I am the operations lead for Remex Staffing's healthcare division. And I am originally from Seattle. Go Seahawks. I started in staffing fresh out of college. I went to the University of Arizona in Tucson, and I started in healthcare staffing, recruiting caregivers and nurses for home health. And got a really big opportunity to go recruit in San Francisco in Silicon Valley for IT individuals. That was about 3 or 4 years after I started in Arizona. I went there. That was amazing. I gained a lot of education on just recruiting in general and basically everything IT. So front end, back end. And after about a year in San Francisco, I received another offer, IT recruiting offer in Chicago. That was just too good to pass up. So I moved to Chicago. Didn't last in Chicago because of those winters. It was way too cold. I don't have a lot of meat on my bones. So I was out of there after the second winter and moved to LA and found my home at Remex Staffing. And that's where I am now and haven't been happier.
Wow, amazing. I love how Americans will move for a job, right?
Oh, yeah.
If the job is right, you guys will pack up, load your car, and get going. But to your point, if it's too cold for you, you're going to do the same and come back, right?
Right. I kind of feel like Goldilocks. Arizona was a little too warm, Chicago was too cold, but LA, just right.
Just right, right? I was in Arizona last summer at my girlfriend's. It was just way, way too hot. So I get that. So let's dive straight in because I'm really excited about this particular topic. And we look at elevating women, supporting women. And I think the mistake a lot of people make is, although this is part of it, women supporting women, we're trying to solve a problem with just one party at the table, right? Because we need the men's opinion. We need that perspective. We need that support. And in some cases might even be guidance, right? So I want to get, for lack of a better word, the male perspective. On that note, from your perspective, what unique qualities do women bring to leadership roles, and how can male allies help amplify those strengths?
I think me personally, I've had male leaders, female leaders, even had a husband and wife leadership team in the past. Mm-hmm. So in my experiences, the women leaders seem to care a little bit more.
Okay.
Not only about their clients, but their coworkers or their colleagues under them. I think they just spend a little bit more time with clients to get more understanding, to reduce the back and forth after having intake conversations, and also supporting me as an individual in my career. I've experienced a lot more support, and I think they were more proponents for advocates for my success in leadership and growing my career as a whole. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've noticed throughout my career.
Men listening to this, how do they help the women around them? And I'm not just talking women that report into them, peers. Hey, look, wife, sister, whatever it might be, right? So how can men help amplify these strengths? Because all the strengths you've just described there, for lack of a better word, they're the senses, right? It's that leading with emotion, and there's this whole taboo around it. Yet you've just said one of the things that you found is the fact that they are women, I know we're generalizing, but far more caring. So how can men actually take that strength in one of their female counterparts, colleagues, and help amplify it and make it okay to lead with empathy, for example.
Yeah, and I think, that comes with leadership, recognizing that leadership isn't a cookie cutter thing. It isn't like a one size fits all. There's different styles and strengths to leadership, but I think appreciating diverse approaches,
Oh, I like that.
you can encourage a more like inclusive community, creating a more effective leadership on the back end because every leader brings a different style. A man versus a woman, it's going to be, they could have the same leadership style, but I think also not just mentoring, women leaders and helping them with anything that you think that you can help with, go above and beyond, but also maybe sponsoring them in terms of elevating their ideas and recommending them for projects. I see a lot of the times that sometimes a woman might put an idea out there that might not get noticed or acknowledged. And then I've noticed a male colleague say the same thing that does get acknowledged. So
That's crazy,
I
right?
I don't know the reasons for that. I don't know the research behind that, but I've noticed that in the past. Recently, it with my organization now, I don't see a lot of that. I've had a lot more women leaders within this organization. We're a lot more diverse and inclusive organization, and we are a lot larger organization than I've been working with in the past. But I've noticed that in respect with that idea might get looked over. Would that woman not give that idea in the future because that happened? I don't know.
Actually, you know what? You bring up a really good point because women coming up with an idea overlooked, men say the same thing. Great idea. Oh my God, what a great leader. What a great what. Why is that? And then I'm going to come from a women's perspective here and take a stab at it. And I'd love to see what you think about this. Could it be as women, we're not forceful enough, or we're waiting for the right opportunity or opening in a conversation, whereas men will just, for lack of a better word, jump right in, right? Is that what you see happening, or am I off the mark here?
I think so. In my experiences, women tend to want to be more like 100% with their ideas before offering them. And that
Wow.
might be because, maybe they offered an idea in the past that wasn't 100% and might have gotten rejected. So maybe it's the history of them offering those ideas in the past and those getting rejected, numerous times. That could have an effect in the future of offering those ideas. So I think creating a trust and openness with your team and making sure that, everybody has a platform for open feedback would eliminate that. But, that's, like I said, comes with leadership.
Yeah, no, I think you're right there because as you were talking about, they haven't flashed out the idea fully. I was actually
Right.
thinking about, and I don't know what the stats are, women when they're applying for jobs. We tend to, let's just say there's 10 criteria. We're like, you know what? Nine and a half, okay, we're going to apply. Whereas men will be like, oh, I've got two of these, I'm going to apply. You were talking about that leadership style. So, men that are listening, actually, I got a twofold question. Men that are listening to this, they've got a woman in their team who's kind of suggested an idea, but it's not fully flashed out. What can they do to help her in that moment?
Yeah, I think maybe, speaking up and just letting them know that, that's a good idea. I agree with this idea, expanding on that idea,
Yep.
maybe. That's a great idea. Maybe we can do this on top of that. Collaborating, maybe saying that's a great idea. I have a couple ideas. Let's work together and,
Okay.
put
Yep.
something out. I think making sure that women know that their ideas are important is a good idea. And I mean, that goes with every colleague and
Yep.
coworker that on your team. You want to make sure that, they feel respected and that their ideas and anything that they offer, is be accepted and not, rejected immediately.
I think what
But
the old version of me, the 20 something year old, because it certainly wouldn't happen now,
mm,
I would have just liked my male colleagues, boss, whoever it is, right,
mm,
to just say, hold on, stop interrupting her, let her finish. Because sometimes all you have to do is shut up and listen, right? You're right, it could apply to anybody, but the context we're talking, I would have just wanted my bosses to shut up and let me finish the sentence. Now that wouldn't happen because I literally would say, excuse me, I'm talking, let me finish, or whatever I this me would say that. But I think, yeah, men just need to sometimes, the answer is really simple: shut up and let her finish.
yeah.
Ask
Or,
clarifying
as
questions.
yeah,
Sorry, gone.
as an ally, we can also say, can we go back to that slide? And then you can give her an opportunity to expand on her idea
No,
without,
I totally agree. Now, let me ask you another question. How do you believe men should approach the development of female talent, and what responsibility do they have in helping women advance professionally? So, what I really want to focus on is, first of all, in your opinion, do you think men actually sit down and think that they have a responsibility to help women grow professionally, or doesn't even cross their mind?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. And me as a man, that never did. And in all my roles, I think, maybe with respect to maybe my first or second role where I did witness a lot of gender bias,
Uh huh.
recently it's been very low. But I've been with Remex for almost 10 years now, so it's been a big chunk of my career, and they do a great job of getting leaders in positions that are inclusive and promote diversity and community and family first. So I'm very happy to be part of an organization that
I want
does
to
have those.
Yeah, I want to go back to 10 years prior, where you said you were in an organization where
Yeah,
you did see the bias, whether it's conscious or not.
yeah.
What did you do? And I get it so early on in your career, I appreciate that. But what did
Yeah.
you do witnessing that? And if you could turn back the clock, knowing what you know now, what do you wish you had done?
And it was tough to witness because me being first job out of college and coming from VPs and CEOs and
Yep,
maybe little nicknames given to female colleagues that they didn't appreciate that I noticed, but I could tell that they didn't want to speak up and let them know that, hey, maybe didn't like that. And me being this young guy fresh out of college and talking to them only and getting their feedback was an eye opener. But it never crossed my mind to walk into my CEO's office and been like, hey, man, you got to stop doing that. So I don't know. I don't know, like, especially for younger workers and people who are fresh in a job who just want to make sure that they have a job and
yep.
don't want to ruffle any feathers or create any waves. It's got to be tough.
And that's why I wanted you and I to talk, because where you are in your career, you're kind of
Mhm.
up at that stage where you've seen it, you're over the entry level learner part of it, but you've still got a long way to go in your career as well, right? So it's really interesting because, yeah, these whole nicknames, or how somebody referred to me as dear on LinkedIn the other day, like, contact me dear, or something to that effect, right, with their comment. I was just like, what did you just call me, right?
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't say that to a man, but people
Yeah,
think
I'm
it's
not your
okay to
dear.
yeah, you don't even know me, right?
Yeah.
and it and it's that, why is it okay to do it to women if you wouldn't do it to men? But I do like what you just said there. You didn't feel you could go into the CEO, the leader, manager, whatever, and say, hey, you realize that really upsets her because of that hierarchy, that org, that perceived, I don't know whether it's value or authority overstepping the mark. Granted, that was 10 years ago. And I like to think we've moved forward in this conversation. But if somebody is listening to you right now, he's in his first job, right? Fresh out of uni, in his first job, and he's seeing, I want to be clear here, just language like this, right?
Yeah.
The terms of endearment. What should he do now?
So that's a good question as well. I think when I would just talk to my female coworkers and let them vent and get it off their chest, that was a plus, albeit a small plus,
Yep.
plus. But I don't know. I think if I would have had the knowledge and maybe the education before going into a position like that, so maybe more training, more education. And I feel like, training has been getting a little better over the years in terms of anti-harassment, sexual
Yep.
harassment trainings, that sort of thing. But yeah, that's a good question. I think the more, education obviously we have, the more knowledge we're going to have, but is that training and education going to resonate with, younger males that are just trying to like keep a job, right?
Yeah,
And that
it's
was
really
my thinking, you don't want to go into a CEO's office and then you might have a job the next day, right?
okay. No, I get that. But I think there's also, and I 100% recognize where you're coming from, right? Okay, I don't want to get fired, right? Let's put it
Yeah.
into, or I don't want to be in that black book or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone has a mum. So I would say put yourself in your mum's position. May not have a sister, but you have mum, right? What would you want someone to do for her? And I think in this particular example we're giving to individuals that have just come into the workforce, talk to somebody and ask them, how should I address this? Right? Because if you had had somebody 10 years ago in that company, be it a HR, a trusted peer, or somebody that had been in the business a while, you could have gone to them and said, okay, this is making me uncomfortable, or this is making her uncomfortable. Let me rephrase that. What do I do about it?
And that's really, because I work with associates all the time who want to go to HR for an issue, but they won't because they want to keep their jobs.
Yeah.
And we have to tell them, hey, this is important. We need to record this. We need to document this so this stuff doesn't happen in the future. Can't just keep sweeping stuff under the rug. Nothing's going to
Yeah.
change.
No, you're right. And unfortunately, I do get it. It's your job versus your career. But it's like, I guess what I'm saying is to anybody, young men that are listening to this, how do you want to show up, right?
Yeah.
How do you want to show up? Do you want to, in this day and age, 2024, how do you want to show up? Because unless you learn those skills, tomorrow it's going to be something else, right? It's going to be something else. Now, let me move on to your current role, because everything we've just, all of that was you 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 8 years ago. But now you report into a very strong individual, very strong individual.
Ziba.
Yeah, Ziba, she's a brilliant leader. And for those that haven't listened to her podcast, go back and listen to that. In fact, I will link that in the show notes. So it'll be really interesting for the listeners to hear it from Ziba's perspective and then yours. So, what initially motivated you to become an ally to your female boss, in this case, Ziba? And how has that experience shaped your views on supporting women in leadership?
I think it was really easy for me initially because when I first started at Remex, Ziba was in a business development role. So she was a BDM for I think about a year before I started. So we were peers when we first started working. I think it was about maybe after a year I started, we had our marketing manager leave. We got a replacement who didn't last very long, and then Ziba stepped into that role. So the dichotomy of me working with her probably a little different than,
Hmm.
somebody just coming into a role and meeting their leader for a first time. I got to see her work ethic, how she progressed in her career, how, hard she worked. I knew that I trusted her 100% with
Yep.
whatever direction she was going to take the branch. So it was really easy for myself to just forget about the why because, like if she's telling me to do something, I'm just going to, 100% go do that and not, ask questions because I know I trust her that this is going to be, the positive direction for the branch in a whole.
So it was easier for you because you had that relationship with her already.
Yeah, yeah, and we were, friends before, she was my leader, so it made it a lot easier for me. So I think my route probably a little smoother than, somebody just getting hired first day and then, meeting Ziba for the first time.
So I'm going to flick that on its head a quick second, if you don't mind. So
Sure.
you've got that relationship, you've worked together, you understand the style and what have you. How has that helped you help people that have joined the business since? Right. So almost I let me rephrase that. How have you been able to help individuals join the business understand Ziba's style and help them get, for lack of a better word, a similar relationship with her and get them to support her as well?
Oh man, yes, very much so. So all of those years where I got to see her working her butt off, making those calls, smiling and dialing every day, it's a lot easier for me to let other colleagues know and coworkers know that, hey, if you're feeling a certain way about Ziva's leadership style, don't worry. This is her deal. She won't give you much of the why, but you just got to trust that the pieces are going to fall into place, so to speak. And I think that's really helped, my progression as a leader too, as well, because then, my coworkers will trust me more because I'm letting them know that I have this trust with my leader, and it kind of the trickle effect is apparent.
That's really, I love what you just said there because first, when I was, as you were talking, thought went through my head, well, why should, in your case, your female leader, Ziba, have to have somebody do that for you because they wouldn't do it for men. But as you were talking, it's, I really like that because what you're pretty much saying is because you have shown her that level of respect and ally and helped individuals understand how to work with her, people have then almost done that for you with your team. Is that what, have I understood that correctly?
Definitely. And I've been in positions where, I've started with a company that, I just didn't understand the leadership style, and I didn't have another coworker that sat down with me and said, "Hey, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about that." And those companies were more of like you're kind of like a cog in the machine. You're just a
Yep.
number. You didn't get a lot of the community feel. So it's apparent when you do get good leadership and good organizational values around a branch and a community that can escalate productivity.
I guess what we're pretty much saying is I know we're talking about women here, but that's actually something really good to do, whether you report into a woman or a man, right? Is really just
Sure.
helping the newcomer, for lack of a better word, on board and adjust to a different management style. Yeah, that's pretty much what we're saying. So on that note, I got a question for you that's just come to mind. How do you balance that bit where you're not overstepping and follow my bouncing ball here? I'm a woman. Why should I need somebody to do this for me where my male colleague over there, my peer over there, he has a very similar style, but he doesn't need anybody to do that for him? How do you balance that? Now, again, you've got that relationship with Ziba. You guys have worked together for a very long time. You were peers. But those people, men that are listening and they want to do that for their new boss, how can they do it without feeling as if they're intruding or they're overstepping their boundaries?
Yeah. So I mean, I've had to do it with male colleagues in the past too as well, but I know not all male colleagues are the same. Some are a little more aggressive, especially our sales guys. Our,
Yep.
our BDMs
Yeah.
can be a little more aggressive than our recruiters, but that's okay. We need the sales. So I think maybe could come down to experience. The male colleague could be used to a male figure in leadership, and
Yep.
if they're just starting out with a female leader, or if they've never had a female leader, might not know how to act, or
That's a really
could,
good point.
yeah,
Yeah,
not
that's
sure
a
there. So,
yeah, really no, but that's I love how authentic you're being and open, and that's what I want this conversation to be. So, if you have got somebody, so again, someone's listening to this and he's never really worked for a female leader before, what would you say to that person? Talk to that person.
yeah, I think if I'm going into a position and I don't know that leader, female or male leader, I'm going to probably try to do a little research on that person, figure out how they got to that position, what they did to become successful in a management role. I think, if you're doing that with Ziba, you can definitely prove her track record, but that might give a fresh male colleague a little eye opener to say, hey, oh my gosh, she did this, this, and this in her career. I haven't even done this. So,
Yep.
maybe I should take a little bit of a step back and listen to what she's saying so I can have some of that success in my career.
I love that because what in essence, yeah, with LinkedIn, social media, you can
It's all there.
the
Yeah.
yeah, all that information is there. It might have not been 10, 15 years ago, but it is there today. So yes, take the time, and I get it. It does apply to men as well, but we're talking about women
Yeah.
today. Take the time to actually understand, get to know her, in other words,
Yeah. Right.
right? Get to know
Yeah.
her, and what can you learn from that person? Because it sounds as if you've used that strategy and your career has grown. You're flourishing. Yes, you've got further to go, but it's working. It's working for you.
Yeah. And I think, if you familiarize yourself with, somebody who's going to be your leader for the next however many years, it's only going to help you in the long run. You want to make sure that that relationship is cohesive and you're not butting heads day one,
Yep. But
you know?
also, thought that just came to my mind as you were talking. It's going to make you a better leader because the individuals reporting into you, it allows you to adapt your management style,
Yeah, for sure.
adapt your management style, your communication style. And we're talking in the context of work. Well, same applies if it's a business meeting. Men would not interrupt if they're a female client, because then that's a different dynamic, whereas they will interrupt a peer. Well, the truth of the matter is it's not okay in either situation. And it's I love the for how you've, and I use this word loosely, quote unquote, used it and learned from it and helped elevate your own career, and now you're bringing others through with you rather than dragging them through, right? So no, this has been really, really good. Before I let you go, is there anything else you want to say on the subject?
I would love to see more leaders in future or Fortune 500 CEO roles. And there's only, let me pull up my stats here, Suki. Less than 1% of women of color are in 500 CEO
Wow.
roles, and that should probably be increased too as well.
Yeah. Well, if you look at how many women are in business in roles, and but it's gonna take individuals like yourself. It's gonna take individuals like the men that are listening to this podcast to be more conscious, because we go through life just we're not I'd like to think most of us are not intentionally being rude. We're not intentionally holding someone back. But for that stat to change, we have to get really conscious about it. And go and ask your female colleagues what they think. Right? How can you go and ask them, how can I support you?
Podcasts with Suki.
Podcast. There you go. Right. Perfect. I love that one.
Information. Yeah. Get
Well,
it out
that's
there.
it. And don't be scared to say you don't know what you don't know. And that's, again,
Right.
that's what I love about talking to you, because at the executive level, it's not rehearsed. That's not fair. They've gone through all these different trainings. They've got HR. They're having meetings about this. So they've had an opportunity to talk about this over and over again. Whereas when we look at middle management, they don't have necessarily been afforded the same. So that was why I wanted to talk to you, because I knew it'll be raw. Right? This is the bit I know. This is the bit I don't know.
Much. I really appreciate it, Suki.
Yeah. Listen, if anyone wants to connect with you and they're listening to this and they're thinking, oh my God, I'm going through that, how can they reach out to you?
Please reach out. Email. I'll put my cell phone in there for you. I'm working all the time. You can reach out anytime.
Perfect. Listen, thank you ever so much for your time. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you, Suki. Have a great rest of your day.
Take care. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Talent Titans, brought to you by Recruitment Professional Forum, where they're building a grassroots community for professionals and leaders in the recruitment industry to collaborate, advocate, and advance the profession. If you liked or were inspired by what you heard, make sure to follow, subscribe, and even leave a review. It lets more talented recruiters like you find the show. Until next time, keep on being a talent titan.